I stared at the reflection in the mirror, perfectly tailored suit, clean-shaven, everything in place. Yet something felt off. I didn't look like the man I used to be. Something inside me had broken, and no amount of wealth or ambition could fix it. I could hear the hum of London outside, cars honking, people rushing. It's the sound of life carrying on without a care in the world. And yet here I was, unable to shake the feeling of emptiness. I threw on my jacket and left the flat. It's a brief moment of peace, perhaps, but it wouldn't last long. My phone buzzed in my pocket. A message from David. "Don't forget dinner with Turner tonight. You sure you're ready for this?" Sebastian Turner, my biggest rival. And yet he and I weren't just business enemies. He was also a personal one, someone who'd quietly made his way into my life, taking things I never thought he could. Things I didn't even realize were slipping away until it was too late. I gripped the phone tighter, my knuckles whitening. It was time for another round of the endless game. I needed to be prepared to push past the suffocating thoughts that always clouded my mind when I thought of Turner. The dinner was nothing special, just another event in a long list of those I attended to keep appearances. But there, across the table, was someone who would change everything. Emily Davies. She didn't belong at a corporate dinner. Her fiery red hair and sharp tongue were in stark contrast to the polished suits and boring speeches around us. She had an edge, a confidence that drew me in. Her laugh, loud and unrestrained, caught me off guard. The woman was not afraid to speak her mind, and I found myself listening. "Mr. Harrington," she said with a sly grin as she leaned toward me, "you look like you've seen a ghost. You should smile more." Her words were like a jolt to my system. For a moment I didn't know how to respond. No one ever challenged me like this. I liked it. "You know," I said, narrowing my eyes, "most people don't speak to me like that. Not most people." That was the start of it all. The casual conversations at first, the fleeting glances, the way she made me feel alive again. She made me forget the emptiness I'd been carrying for years. But all of that changed the night I found out about her. It was supposed to be just another business trip to Manchester. But the phone call that night turned my world upside down. "James, you need to know something." David's voice crackled through the receiver, panic clear in his tone.
Emily.
"Emily's been working with Turner. She's involved with him in ways you don't understand." I didn't know how to process it. "Emily?" Thoughts were a tangled mess of confusion and disbelief. "What do you mean, working with him? How long has this been going on?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, as if the very words could break me. David hesitated. "She's been feeding him information about your projects, everything. It was all part of his plan to take you down." I felt the blood drain from my face. Betrayal. The word hit me like a punch to the stomach. How could she? How could she deceive me like this? The next few days felt like a blur. Didn't want to see anyone. Not David, not Emily, not even my reflection in the mirror. It was all too much. The betrayal from the one person I'd let in, someone who'd made me believe again, had shattered me. I sat in my office staring at the file in front of me. It was all laid out in front of me now, proof of Emily's secret dealings with Turner. I'd been blind to it. I thought I knew her, but I was wrong. I was so wrong. There was a knock on the door. I didn't have to look up to know who it was. "James." David's voice came through the door softly, almost apologetically. "We need to talk." I let him in, but I didn't speak. I couldn't. What was there to say? The betrayal was too fresh, too painful. "I know you're hurting," David said, sitting across from me, "but you can't shut yourself off like this. You have to confront it." I looked up, meeting his gaze. "Confront what? She used me, David? She used everything we had for her own gain? I trusted her?" David's expression softened, but he didn't offer any comforting words. He didn't have to. The truth was clear. There was no easy way out of this. "I know, but you can't let her win by breaking down. You have to decide what comes next." I stared out the window, my mind racing. I didn't want to care, but I did. That made everything worse. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing Emily's face in my mind, her fiery hair, her laughter, the way she'd looked at me like I was the only person in the room. And then the image would change, turning cold and calculating, like the stranger I'd never known. I hated myself for even thinking about her. But I couldn't shake the feeling that she had something more to say. Maybe there was still something left between us. But I wasn't sure I could ever trust her again. The next day, I walked into the office with a new sense of purpose. I was done with feeling sorry for myself. Done with letting her control my thoughts. It was time to take back what was mine. I walked up to David. "Get me Turner. It's time to end this." David looked at me, searching my face for any sign of hesitation. He found none. "Are you sure you want to do this, James?" I nodded, my voice cold. "I've made my decision. It was just the beginning." A battle had been set in motion, one that would change everything. But first, I needed to confront the one who had brought me to this point, Emily. And I wasn't sure if I would ever be the same again. I couldn't breathe. I sat in the back of the car, my mind swirling with images of Emily and Sebastian, the betrayal so sharp it felt like a physical wound. The air outside the car was thick with London's noise, but all I could hear was the pounding of my own thoughts, each one louder than the last. I should have seen it. I should have known, but I didn't. As I stared out the window, the familiar sight of London faded into the rearview mirror. I wasn't going back to my flat. Not today. I needed to escape. Liverpool was quieter. Streets here weren't as crowded, and the skyline was less oppressive. I was familiar with this place. It was where I'd grown up, the estate where my family had lived for generations. The car pulled into the drive of the old manor, its Victorian architecture standing tall against the setting sun. The house felt colder than I remembered, as if it had absorbed all my past regrets, each room holding a memory I couldn't escape. I slammed the door behind me and walked inside, the air thick with the smell of dust and old wood. Everything in here felt familiar yet distant, like a place I had once belonged to, but no longer did. I sank onto the leather couch, my hands running through my hair. "What the hell am I doing, James?" a voice called out, pulling me from my spiraling thoughts. I turned to find Charlotte Thompson standing in the doorway, her arms crossed, looking as sharp and determined as ever. My ex-girlfriend, David's sister. The one person who still seemed to care, even when I pushed her away. "What do you want, Charlotte?" I asked, my voice sounding harsher than I intended. She walked in, not fazed by my tone, and sat down next to me. "You're being ridiculous. You need to stop hiding here and face what's happening." "I don't need your advice," I snapped, my frustration bubbling to the surface. "You think I don't know what's going on?" Charlotte exhaled, her gaze softening. "I know you're angry. But you can't just run away from it all. Emily might have hurt you, but you can't shut everyone out." I clenched my fists, feeling the weight of her words. "You don't understand. She lied to me, Charlotte. She used me, and now I don't know who to trust." She reached out, her hand resting on my shoulder, but I shrugged it off. "James, listen to me. You're going to let this destroy you if you keep pushing everyone away." I stood up, pacing the room, unable to keep still. "I don't know how to deal with this. I don't know who I am anymore. Everything I thought I knew, it's all a lie." Charlotte's voice was softer now, her concern evident. "You need to stop overreacting. Emily made a mistake. But you're not the only one who's hurt here. She's hurting too." I whirled around to face her, my anger flaring up again. "You think I care? She's the one who betrayed me, not the other way around. Don't need your pity, Charlotte." I saw the hurt flash across her face, but she didn't back down. "I'm not pitying you, James. I'm trying to help you. You're isolating yourself, and it's not healthy." I stared at her, the frustration and hurt clouding my thoughts. "I don't need anyone. I'll figure this out on my own." Charlotte's eyes narrowed, frustration creeping into her voice. "You're not thinking straight, and you're making things worse by pushing everyone away. If you keep going down this path, you'll lose everything." Her words echoed in my mind as she left, but I didn't care. I couldn't let anyone in, not right now, not after everything. I didn't know how much time passed before I heard the knock at the door. Didn't feel like answering, but something in me made me stand up. When I opened it, I found David standing on the other side, his expression unreadable. "You've been avoiding my calls," he said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. "I'm not in the mood for this, David," I muttered, heading back toward the couch. He followed me, sitting down beside me. "What's going on? You're shutting everyone out. You can't just do that, James." Clenched my jaw, unwilling to share the depth of my thoughts. "You don't get it. You don't understand how badly she screwed me over." David's eyes softened, and he placed a hand on my shoulder. "I know you're hurt, but shutting down isn't going to fix it. You have to face the truth, even if it's hard." "The truth," I repeated bitterly. The truth is that Emily used me. She played me for a fool, and now everything is falling apart. David's expression grew more serious. What about the people who still care about you? What about me? I'm here for you no matter what. I sighed, rubbing my temples. I can't keep pretending like everything's okay. I don't even know who I am anymore. David didn't respond right away, and I couldn't decide if I wanted him to say something comforting or not. In the silence, I felt my phone buzz in my pocket. I didn't want to look at it, but something pulled at me, and I pulled it out. The message was from Emily. James, I owe you an explanation. I never meant for it to happen like this. Please, let me talk to you. I stared at the screen for a moment, my heart pounding in my chest. This was it. The answer I had been waiting for. Or was it? I wasn't sure if I could trust anything she said anymore. David noticed the hesitation. What's that? I didn't answer him. Instead, I turned the phone over, trying to bury the thoughts racing through my mind. I don't know what to do, I said softly, more to myself than to David. He sighed, rubbing his forehead. You don't have to figure everything out right now, James. Just take it one step at a time. But I couldn't. The cracks had already begun to show, and no matter how hard I tried to ignore it, they were spreading. I had no choice now. I had to face the truth even if it tore me apart. The letter from Emily had only made things worse. It didn't bring the closure I was hoping for. It just left me more conflicted, more uncertain. I had to find a way to fix this, but I had no idea where to even begin. I sat there, alone in the dimly lit room, the weight of the world on my shoulders. The cracks were there, and they weren't going away anytime soon. I sat there, staring at the letter from Emily, the words etched into my mind like a brand. I owe you an explanation. No, Emily, you owe me more than that. You owe me the truth. I crushed the letter in my hands, then tossed it aside. The words were already burned into my brain, but reading it over and over wasn't going to change what had happened. I had trusted her, believed in her now. It felt like everything I stood for had crumbled. I couldn't even be sure who she was anymore. I looked at my phone. Her number stared back at me. I'd avoided calling her since I found out the truth. I had avoided everyone. David, Charlotte, even the people who still cared about me. The betrayal wasn't just from Emily. It was from myself. I'd let my guard down, and that was something I would never forgive myself for. James, David's voice interrupted my thoughts as he sat down next to me. I know you're thinking about her. You need to make a choice now. I felt a knot form in my stomach. What's the point? Looking out the window. The familiar sight of Birmingham, the city where everything started, felt like a prison now. It's too late. She's already gone. She's with him. Turner, Sebastian, they've got everything I had. My trust, my life. David sighed, his voice softer. I get that you're angry. But you can't keep running away from this. Confront her. Get the truth. Otherwise, you'll regret it. I shook my head, gripping my phone tighter. I don't know if I can face her. Not after everything. David didn't say anything for a while, just sat there watching me, like he was waiting for me to finally snap out of it. You've got two choices, James, he said, breaking the silence. You can walk away, keep running, and stay angry. Or you can face her, get your answers, and move on. But either way, you have to make a choice. I ran a hand through my hair. I don't know what I'm supposed to do anymore. I've never felt this... lost. David's eyes softened. I've seen you go through a lot worse, James, but this is different. This is about you and what you want. Not what she wants, not what Turner wants. I didn't respond. Instead, I grabbed my coat and walked toward the door, the weight of my decision pressing down on me. As I stepped outside, the cold air hit my face, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I breathed deeply. I had to decide. I couldn't keep running. Birmingham's streets were empty, the city quiet and still. I walked aimlessly, lost in my thoughts, until I found myself standing in front of Sebastian Turner's office building. I hadn't been here in months. The last time I'd set foot in this building, I was still in control, at least I thought I was. I had no idea that things had already slipped through my fingers. I pushed through the glass doors and made my way to the elevator. As the doors closed, I stared at my reflection in the polished metal. The man staring back at me was a stranger. Who had I become? The elevator dinged and I stepped out onto the top floor, where Turner's office loomed in front of me. The door was slightly ajar, and I could hear voices inside. I didn't knock. I just walked in. "James," Turner said, looking up from his desk, a smug grin on his face. "I knew you'd show up eventually." I clenched my fists at my sides. "What the hell have you done, Turner?" He leaned back in his chair, his fingers steepled in front of him. "Done. I've done what anyone would do in my position. I've played the game. You, on the other hand, have been playing checkers while I've been playing chess." I took a step forward. "This isn't a game, Sebastian. This is my life." Turner's grin only widened. "Your life?" "No, you've been living in a bubble, James. I'm just the one who popped it." My anger flared. "You've been using her, Emily. You used her to take me down." His eyes sparkled with amusement. "She's not some pawn, James. She's her own person. She made her choice. And now so have you." I stood there, trying to control my breathing. My heart was pounding in my chest, my mind a mess of anger and confusion. "You don't get it? This isn't just business. You've ruined everything, everything." Turner chuckled. "You're not as important as you think you are, James. This isn't about you. It's about power." I took another step forward. "I'm going to make sure you regret this." Turner raised an eyebrow. "I'm waiting for you to try, James, but you'll have to do better than that." I could feel my body trembling with rage, but something inside me told me to stop, to breathe, to think. I had a choice: revenge or something else. I left Turner's office without saying another word. My mind was racing, torn between the desire to take everything from him and the realization that if I did, I'd lose myself in the process. As I walked back to my car, I thought about Emily. The hurt, the anger, but also the question I couldn't stop asking myself: was she worth it? I pulled my phone from my pocket, staring at Emily's number again. My fingers hovered over the screen. I could call her, get the answers I needed. But what if it was too late? If everything was a lie? I didn't know. But as I drove away from Birmingham, I realized one thing. I couldn't live in this limbo any longer. I had to make a choice. I didn't know what the future held. I knew one thing. Everything I did from this moment forward would change everything. It was time to face Emily. It was time to get the answers I deserved. And whether I liked it or not, that decision would define who I became. The night was quiet, too quiet, like the calm before the storm. I was driving through the city, my thoughts still tangled in the mess that had become my life. I'd spent the entire day trying to erase her from my mind. But no matter how hard I tried, she kept creeping back in. I took a sharp turn onto a quieter street, trying to clear my head. My phone buzzed in my pocket, but I ignored it. I couldn't deal with anyone right now. Suddenly, without warning, a figure appeared in the middle of the road. I slammed on the brakes, the tires screeching as I swerved to avoid hitting them. My car skidded, sending a jolt through my body, and before I could even react, I heard the unmistakable sound of metal on metal. I stopped the car, my heart racing. My breath came in sharp gasps as I stepped out of the vehicle. And there she was, Emily. She stood in front of me, her face flushed with anger, her eyes wide with a mix of fear and rage. Her hands were trembling, but it was the look on her face that hit me hardest. It was like she had nothing left to lose. "Are you out of your mind?" I shouted, my hands balled into fists. "What the hell are you doing, Emily?" Her voice was a strained whisper as she stepped closer. "I didn't mean to. She cut herself off, her emotions clearly getting the best of her. I looked down at my car. The front bumper was dented, the headlight shattered. It wasn't a huge crash, but it was enough to make me lose my mind. "You smashed my car, Emily. Are you insane?" "I'll pay for the damage," she said quickly, but her voice didn't sound confident. "I'll take care of everything. Just please, let me explain, please." I took a step back, trying to process what was happening. Was she really standing here, after everything that had happened, acting like nothing had changed? "Explain," I said, the bitterness in my voice making me flinch. "What is there to explain? You've already ruined everything, Emily." Her eyes filled with frustration. "You don't understand," she muttered, looking down at the ground. "I didn't want to hurt you, James. I was just trying to survive, but I messed up. I messed everything up." I was shaking my head before I could stop myself. "You think you can just show up and apologize? You think that'll fix everything? Please, she begged, her voice cracking. I'll do anything. Just let me make it right. Let me make up for the mess I've caused. Her words hung in the air, and for a moment, I didn't know what to do. I was so angry, so hurt, but there was something in the way she was standing there, so vulnerable, that stopped me in my tracks. Anything? I asked, my voice rough. Anything? What? Like offering yourself to make it right? She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mix of guilt and desperation. Yes, she said softly, if that's what it takes. I froze, the words ringing in my ears. Was she serious? Was she really offering herself like this? I don't know what to say to that, I said, feeling a sharp pang of confusion. I can't just know. This isn't what I thought it was going to be. She stepped forward, closing the distance between us. I don't expect you to forgive me right away. I just need you to see that I'm not the villain you think I am. I'm not. I've made mistakes, huge ones, but She stopped herself, looking like she was holding back tears. I never wanted to hurt you. For a moment, I couldn't say anything. My heart was beating too fast, my mind racing with 100 different thoughts. She stood there, her vulnerability laid bare in front of me, and all I could do was stare. Was I really seeing her like this after everything? Emily, I said, my voice softer than I intended. You've hurt me more than anyone ever has. I stopped myself, feeling the weight of the words in my throat. Can't just expect me to forget everything. She took another step closer, her breath shaky. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. But I need you to understand that I'm not who you think I am. I was just trying to survive in a world that didn't care about me, didn't know what else to do. I wanted to push her away, wanted to yell at her, to tell her how angry I was. But as she stood in front of me, her face so raw with emotion, I couldn't bring myself to do it. I don't know what to do with this, Emily, I said, my voice breaking. I don't know if I can trust you again. After everything you've done, I don't know if I can even look at you the same way. Her face fell, and she stepped back, like she couldn't bear to hear my words. I don't expect you to trust me, but I need you to see that I'm not a monster. I'm just a person who messed up. The silence between us stretched, both of us struggling to breathe, to find the right words. I didn't know if I could ever forgive her, but part of me wanted to. It's not because I was weak, but because I was tired of carrying the weight of this anger. Why did you do it? I asked quietly, finally looking her in the eyes. Why did you betray me? She shook her head. It wasn't about you, James, it was about me. I didn't know how to fix things. I didn't know how to fix myself. I felt something in my chest tighten. She wasn't just begging for forgiveness. She was begging for redemption for herself. And in that moment, I realized that maybe we were both just lost, trying to find our way through the mess we'd made. I can't promise anything, I said slowly, my voice low. But I'm not walking away, not yet. Her eyes searched mine, the uncertainty still there, but there was also something else, hope. She was reaching for it, just as I was. I'll make it right, James, she said softly. I'll prove it to you. I wasn't sure how or if that would ever happen. But I knew one thing. Everything had changed. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to see where this path would take us. The power had shifted. We were both standing on the edge, uncertain of what came next. But for the first time in a long while, I wasn't so sure that I was the only one in control anymore. I stared at my reflection in the mirror, the image of a man I barely recognized. My eyes were dull, my face gaunt, the weight of everything I'd been through pressing down on me like a vice. Emily's words echoed in my mind, but they weren't the ones that haunted me the most. No, it was the truth I couldn't escape, the truth, that I wasn't just battling her betrayal, I was battling myself. The road I'd walked had been paved with pride, ego, and arrogance. I had convinced myself that I was invincible, that no one could touch me, no one could hurt me. And then Emily came along and tore down everything I'd built. It wasn't her fault, no. I'd let her in. I'd let myself be vulnerable for the first time in years, and that's what had destroyed me. I clenched my fists, feeling the anger surge through me again. I hated this feeling. I hated feeling weak, like I couldn't control anything. I wasn't that man anymore. I walked out of the flat, trying to force myself to breathe, to think. The cold air hit me like a slap in the face, but it didn't help. Nothing helped. I felt stuck. David had called earlier asking if I wanted to meet up, but I didn't want to talk to him. Not yet. Not until I could figure this out on my own. I needed to clear my head to make sense of everything that had happened. I walked through Birmingham, the familiar streets offering no comfort. I passed the cafe where Emily and I had sat for hours, laughing and talking like we had all the time in the world. Now, it felt like a distant memory, a ghost of a time I could never get back. I had to move on, had to rebuild myself from the ground up. That night, I found myself at the gym. It wasn't something I usually did, but tonight felt different. I needed to feel in control again. I needed to prove to myself that I could fight back, not just against Emily's betrayal, but against everything that had ever made me feel small. I grabbed a pair of gloves and threw myself into the punching bag, my body moving on autopilot. Each hit was like an explosion, each punch a release of all the anger and frustration that had been building inside me. "Come on, James," I muttered to myself. "Get it together." The sound of the bag thumping under my fists was the only thing that kept me grounded. My thoughts were a blur, but one thing was clear. I couldn't keep running from myself. I had to face the things I'd buried for so long, my own insecurities, my own weaknesses. I wasn't perfect. I wasn't untouchable, and that scared the hell out of me. The next day, I found myself standing outside a cafe. I hadn't planned on coming here, but there I was. I walked inside, looking around, trying to avoid the feeling that I was being watched. But there she was, sitting by the window, looking lost in thought. Am I? She looked up as I walked in, her face softening when she saw me. I didn't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this her. Looking so... vulnerable, it made everything more complicated. I stood at the door for a moment, trying to figure out what I was doing here. But before I could turn and walk out, she stood up and made her way toward me. "James," she said softly, her voice filled with uncertainty. "I didn't think you'd come." I didn't say anything at first. I just stared at her, my heart pounding in my chest. I wasn't sure what I wanted from her, what I wanted from this conversation. "Why did you do it?" I asked finally, the question hanging in the air like an accusation. Her eyes filled with regret. "I didn't want to hurt you, James. I swear I didn't. But I was scared, and I made a mistake. I wasn't thinking straight. I thought I could control everything, but I was wrong. I was so wrong." I clenched my jaw, fighting the wave of anger that threatened to rise. "So, you thought you could just use me? Play me like some fool?" Her face crumpled in guilt. "No, I never meant to use you. It just happened. I never meant for any of this to happen." I let out a long breath, trying to keep my emotions in check. "You should have told me the truth. You should have trusted me." "I know," she whispered, her voice breaking, "and I'm sorry. I am. I thought I was doing the right thing, and now look at us." I didn't know what to say to that. Part of me wanted to walk away, to shut her out completely. But another part of me, the part that had been lost for so long, wanted to reach out to try and understand. I took a step back, my mind racing. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Emily. I don't know if I can ever trust you again." She looked down at her hands, her eyes filled with sorrow. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know that I'm trying. I'm trying to fix what I've broken." I stood there, my chest tight, unsure of what to do next. I had so many emotions swirling inside me: anger, confusion, guilt. But more than anything, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: vulnerability. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked, my voice quieter than I intended. "Why now?" She took a step closer, her gaze never leaving mine. "Because I'm not the person you think I am, James. I made a huge mistake, but I'm trying to learn from it. I want to make things right." I didn't know what to say. I wanted to yell, to tell her everything I'd been holding in. But I didn't. Instead, I just stood there, the silence stretching between us like a bridge I wasn't sure I could cross. When I left the cafe, I felt lighter somehow, but also heavier. The weight of everything I had to face, everything I had to change, pressed down on me. I wasn't the same man who had walked in, but I wasn't sure who I was becoming. One thing was clear: I couldn't keep running from myself anymore. The road to self-improvement, to redemption, would be long and hard. But for the first time, I was ready to walk it. And maybe, just maybe, I could find myself again. I stood there in front of the mirror, the weight of my decision settling heavily on my chest. Revenge. It had been on my mind for weeks. Ever since I found out about Emily and Turner, the anger had been festering, burning inside me. And now, the time had come. I couldn't move forward without it. I couldn't go back to being the man who had been humiliated, betrayed, and left in the dust. Sebastian Turner had to pay. He needed to feel the weight of his actions, and I would make sure he did. I walked into my office, the familiar hum of the city below barely registering. It was time to take control. I grabbed my phone and made the call to my lawyer. I need everything you have on Turner's operations, his finances, his connections, everything. I want to hit him where it hurts. The voice on the other end was calm, collected as usual. Understood. I'll have the files ready by tomorrow. I hung up, feeling a cold thrill rush through me. I was finally in control. This was how I would win. This was how I would make him regret every moment he ever crossed me. The next day, I was in Manchester, standing outside Turner's sleek office building. The city felt colder now, like it had become a battleground. I wasn't here for business. I wasn't here to negotiate. I was here to destroy. I stepped into the lobby, moving with purpose, ignoring the eyes that lingered on me as I passed. I wasn't the same man who had once walked through these doors, hoping to be recognized, hoping to make something of myself. No, I was a different version of James now, a man who had nothing to lose. Inside the elevator, I stood silently, waiting as the numbers counted down. When the door opened, I stepped out, heading straight for Turner's office. And his assistant gave me a wary look, but she knew better than to stop me. I'd been here enough times to know the routine. I knocked twice, and then opened the door without waiting for a response. "James," Turner said, looking up from his desk, his usual smirk firmly in place. "I was wondering when you'd come. I didn't waste time with pleasantries." "I'm here to take everything from you, Turner." He leaned back in his chair, a laugh escaping him. "Is that so? You think you can just waltz in here and destroy everything I've built?" I didn't flinch. "I think you underestimate how much I've lost, and how far I'm willing to go to make you feel the same way." His expression changed slightly, but he remained composed. "You don't know what you're up against. You think your petty revenge will make you feel better? It won't. You'll just end up as empty as you were before." I could feel the anger building again, threatening to spill over. "You don't get it, do you?
Oh.
This isn't about me feeling better. This is about justice." He stood up slowly, walking around his desk to stand in front of me. "Justice. You're talking about tearing apart my business, my life. Because of what? A mistake. Emily was never yours, James. You never had control over her. And now you're losing control of yourself." His words hit me harder than I expected, a sharp sting in my chest. I hated him for that, but I couldn't show weakness. I couldn't let him see the cracks in my armor. "I'm not losing control," I said, my voice low, dangerous. "I'm taking back what's mine." The next few days were a blur. I worked tirelessly, using everything I had to get closer to Turner. I manipulated deals, pushed people out of the way, used my influence to bend things to my will. The lines between right and wrong started to blur, and I didn't care. I had been blinded by my need for vengeance. I had told myself it would make me whole again, that if I took everything from Turner, I would finally feel the satisfaction I had been craving. But as I saw the pieces falling into place, something started to gnaw at me. Was this really the answer? Was destroying someone else the only way I could fix myself? I sat in my hotel room one night, staring at the document spread out in front of me. The plan was nearly complete. Turner's empire would crumble in the next few weeks. But as I looked over everything, a sinking feeling settled in my stomach. Was this all worth it? I had wanted revenge, but now that it was within my grasp, I felt hollow. Nothing about this felt like victory. It felt like destruction, like I was losing a part of myself in the process. The anger that had once fueled me now seemed empty, pointless. I slammed my fist onto the table, frustrated with myself. What the hell am I doing? I thought back to the moment when Emily had stood in front of me, vulnerable, apologizing. I had wanted to believe her, to find a way to forgive her, but I couldn't. Not then. Not when everything inside me screamed for justice, for retribution. But now. Now I didn't know. The next morning I called David. I'm done, I said before he could even speak. I'm walking away. There was silence on the other end of the line before he spoke again. James, ... Are you sure? This is your chance to end it all. I know, I replied, my voice steady. But it's not worth it anymore. It's not who I want to be. Then what are you going to do? I took a deep breath, the weight of the decision heavy on my chest. I'm going to fix this. Not with revenge. I don't know what that is yet, but I'm going to figure it out. David's voice softened. It's going to be a long road, James. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. I know, and it's the only road worth walking. As I packed up my things and left the hotel, I felt like I was shedding an old skin, one that had been suffocating me for far too long. The road to redemption would be difficult, but it was mine to walk now, and for the first time in a long time I was ready to face whatever came next. The choice I had made wasn't about revenge, it was about finding peace, about learning from my mistakes, and about never losing myself again. I watched as the final pieces of Sebastian Turner's empire began to crumble. Each call I made, each move I manipulated, took him one step closer to losing everything he'd spent years building. It felt like power was slipping through my fingers, but not in the way I'd expected. There was no rush of satisfaction, no triumphant moment. Instead, I felt ... empty, hollow. When I had started this, I thought I'd be able to walk away feeling victorious. But now, as I sat in my office, looking at the evidence of Turner's impending downfall, I couldn't shake the nagging feeling that something was wrong. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the spreadsheets in front of me. Turner's assets were rapidly being liquidated, his influence in the market shattered, and his reputation, well, it was beyond repair. I had done this. I had made it happen. But why didn't it feel like I'd won? I picked up my phone, mindlessly scrolling through messages. One from David. You sure about this, James? Once you pull the trigger, there's no going back. I read the message again. Was I sure? Was I really? I had been so certain, so focused on revenge. But now, as I watched Turner lose everything, I realized I didn't feel like I'd restored anything. You felt ... regret. I set the phone down, rubbing my face. I had played the game, and I had won. But why did I feel so lost? The next day, things took an unexpected turn. Now the door to my office opened, and there she was, Emily. I hadn't heard from her in days. The last time we spoke, I'd turned my back on her, convinced that everything she had done was unforgivable.
Die.
But now, standing there, looking at her, I wasn't sure of anything anymore. James, she said softly, her voice tentative, unsure. I stood up, my eyes narrowing. What are you doing here? She stepped forward, holding her hands out in a gesture of peace. I need to talk to you. I crossed my arms, not letting her get any closer. Talk. About what? About how you betrayed me. Her eyes filled with pain, but she didn't back down. No, James. About how I'm sorry. About how I never wanted to hurt you. I shook my head, the anger still bubbling beneath the surface. You don't get it, Emily. You played me, just like everyone else. I can't forget that. I can't forget how you destroyed everything I worked for. She looked down, her voice trembling when she spoke again. I know I can't erase what I've done. I can't take it back. But I want to make it right. I want to fix things. I let out a bitter laugh. Make it right after everything? You think you can just show up and fix things? I don't know, she whispered, her eyes meeting mine. But I want to try. I want to start over, James. I need to start over with you. I felt something in me snap at her words. Part of me, the part that still cared, wanted to give her that chance. But then I remembered everything. The betrayal. The lies. My whole world falling apart because of her. No, I said, my voice cold. You had your chance, Emily. You had it, and you threw it away. I'm done with you. She flinched as if my words had physically struck her. She opened her mouth to say something, but I held up my hand, stopping her. Don't I? Said sharply. I don't need your apology. I don't need you. She stood there for a moment, her expression torn. And then she slowly turned and walked out, leaving me standing there, feeling more alone than I ever had. I didn't feel any better after she left. If anything, I felt worse. I had gotten my revenge on Turner. I had taken everything from him, just as I had promised myself I would. Instead of feeling powerful, I felt empty. What had it all been for? I sat back in my chair, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I had made a mistake. Had all of this really been worth it? And then my phone buzzed again. David's name flashed on the screen. "How are you holding up?" his message read. I stared at the screen for a long time before replying. I'm not sure anymore. Later that evening, I sat alone at my desk, the office lights dimmed, staring at the papers in front of me. My mind was a mess. I'd destroyed Sebastian Turner. But I had destroyed a part of myself in the process, too. What did I really have to show for all this? I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. The weight of everything I'd done pressed down on me like a ton of bricks. I had thought revenge would be the answer. I had thought it would fill the hole in my chest. But now, I realized that it had only deepened it. I took a deep breath, trying to calm the storm inside of me. Was it too late to change? Had I gone too far to ever come back from this? I didn't have an answer. And maybe that was the hardest part. The next morning I woke up to a message from Emily. "I'm sorry, James, I really am. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope one day you'll find it in your heart to give me another chance." I stared at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to believe her. Part of me wanted to forgive her and start over, to rebuild everything that had been broken. But the other part of me, the part that had been burned by her betrayal, was hardening again. The walls around my heart growing thicker. Could I trust her again? Could I ever truly forgive her? I didn't know. Sebastian Turner had lost everything. His empire was in ruins, his name tarnished. But I had lost something too. Something that I wasn't sure I could ever get back. And in the silence of my office, I realized the most painful truth. Revenge hadn't healed me, had broken me even further. I sat at my desk, staring at the pile of papers in front of me, but my mind was elsewhere. The city outside my window buzzed with life, but inside, it felt like I was stuck in an endless loop. The events of the past months had changed everything. I had changed. Emily's words still echoed in my mind, haunting me in the quiet moments. "I never wanted to hurt you, James, but I knew that no matter how many times I heard it, it wouldn't erase the pain, the betrayal. It wouldn't undo everything I'd lost. James." I looked up startled to find David standing in the doorway. He had this look in his eyes, one that told me he had been waiting for me to acknowledge something I wasn't ready to face. "David," I said, trying to keep my voice neutral. "What's up?" He didn't sit down. Instead, he walked toward me, leaning against the desk. "How are you holding up? Really holding up?" I shifted in my chair, feeling the weight of his gaze. "I'm fine," I lied. "Everything's fine." "You don't look fine," he sighed. "You've been avoiding everyone?" "I get it, James. I do. But you can't keep burying this." I swallowed, the familiar pressure rising in my chest. "I don't know how to deal with it, David. I don't know how to make it right. I've done so much. I've destroyed so much. Revenge doesn't fix things. It just makes you feel like you've won, but you don't win. Not like that. It's not what you need." His words hit me harder than I expected. The bitterness, the anger, it had consumed me for so long. I had told myself it was justice, that I deserved to make Sebastian Turner pay. But now, as I sat here, I wasn't so sure. "Is that what this is all about?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Justice? Or is it just me wanting to make myself feel better?" David didn't answer right away. Instead, he walked over to the window, staring out at the city below. "I think it's more than that. You're trying to reclaim something, aren't you? Power, control. But none of this has been about them, James. It's been about you, about how you see yourself." I didn't say anything. What was there to say? He was right. It had all been about me. My need for validation, for payback. I had wanted to feel powerful, to regain control over the pieces of my life that had slipped away. But at what cost? I leaned back in my chair, my gaze fixed on the floor. It feels like it's too late to go back. It's like I've already crossed a line. David's voice softened. "You can always choose to step back, James. It's never too late. You can't keep punishing yourself for the things you've done. You've got to forgive yourself first, or nothing will ever change." I didn't know if I was ready for that. Forgiveness, not just Emily's mine. A few hours later, I found myself standing outside the cafe where Emily and I had once spent so many hours together. The place felt different, now distant, like a memory I couldn't fully grasp. I didn't want to go in, but I knew I had to. I walked in, my heart racing in my chest. The bell above the door jingled, and I saw her sitting by the window, her head down, lost in thought. She looked up when she heard me approach, her face softening in a way that made my heart ache. "James," she said quietly, standing up. "I wasn't sure you'd come." I hesitated. I wasn't sure either. We stood there for a moment, neither of us knowing exactly what to say. The air between us was heavy with the weight of everything that had happened. Finally, I spoke. "I don't know if I can forgive you, Emily. I don't know if I can ever trust you again." Her eyes filled with sorrow, but there was a quiet strength behind them. "I don't expect you to forgive me right away," she said softly. "But I'm here, James. I'm here to make things right. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for everything." I wanted to be angry. I wanted to tell her how much she had hurt me, how much everything she had done had broken me. But instead, I felt a lump form in my throat. Because deep down, I knew that holding on to that anger, that resentment, would only keep me trapped. "I know you are," I said, my voice rough. I don't know what to do with all this. It's not just about you. It's about me too." She nodded, a sad smile tugging at her lips. I know that now." For the first time in what felt like forever, I didn't feel the urge to lash out. I didn't feel the weight of vengeance on my shoulders. I didn't know if I could forgive her. Not yet. But I realized that maybe that wasn't what mattered. What mattered was moving forward. "James," she said, stepping closer, "I don't expect everything to be fixed in a day. I don't even know if we can fix it all. But I want to try, if you'll let me." I looked at her, seeing the sincerity in her eyes. It wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about choosing to face the future, no matter how uncertain it was. "I don't know if I can ever forget," I said quietly. "But I can try. I want to try." We stood there, both of us unsure of what came next. The past had shaped us, but it didn't have to define us. As I walked out of the cafe, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. The weight of the anger I'd carried for so long had lifted, even if just a little. I wasn't sure where Emily and I would go from here, or if we'd ever get back to what we once had. But what I did know was this. The road to healing was long, and I had only just begun. I took a deep breath, embracing the complexity of everything: the love, the loss, the mistakes, the forgiveness. It wasn't about perfection. It was about learning to live with the cracks and finding a way to move forward. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like I was finally on the path to closure. I was ready for whatever came next.